Both Israelis and Palestinians have been engaging in cross-border skirmishes. Nathan Yellen Moore understands terrorism. During Israel's fight for independence, he was one of the leaders of the infamous Stern Gang, which engaged in terrorist activities fighting for that independence. Mr. Yellen Moore was in New York City recently. Reporter Jody Miller asked him whether he believed Israel should recognize the Palestinian Liberation Organization.
I think that Israel has to recognize the PLO because, you see, I always say that, like, Descartes was right when he said in Latin, cogito ergo sum, that means I think, therefore I exist. For a nation it's right, and especially for a fighting movement. I fight, therefore I exist. And the PLO is the movement that is fighting for the Palestinian people.
But your compatriots say that to recognize the PLO would be to endorse terrorism and PLO activities.
I was a terrorist myself, or I was called a terrorist. But I'm no hypocrite to say that what was allowed to us is not allowed to other people. I know that every nation fighting for its independence should or is obliged to use violence. I haven't seen many cases in history where sovereignty and freedom was achieved otherwise. What I may reproach to the Palestinians, especially to the more radical group, is that their so-called terror is unrestricted. It doesn't discriminate, let's say, between innocent people and people whom they could accuse of atrocities or even of responsibility for the situation in Palestine. We didn't do it.
You didn't. You didn't have unrestricted terrorism?
No, never. Look, sometimes there were innocent casualties, but this was by accident. It was not meant, it was not planned.
But isn't that a part of terrorism? I mean, to create terror within an entire society among both the guilty and the innocent.
Look, the same situation or the same problem was posed itself before us in the 1940s. We had to decide on one question. If we should attempt the life or only of those people who are directly involved in crimes against the Jewish people, or we should also act against any British military uniformed person. And we decided to act against them, especially when they published laws. I call them laws, there are no laws, there were regulations, that every member of our group, of anybody caught with arms, or a friend of a man who was caught in arms belonging to the same organization, is liable to be sentenced to death. And then we published our regulations that every British man who is wearing a uniform and belongs to the British force of oppression is liable to be shot everywhere, in the street or elsewhere. But even at that time, which was really very hard and very dangerous, we didn't decide to shoot British women, let's say, or British children, so it was very easy for us to do it.
What about the King David Hotel incident?
Yeah. First of all, the King David Hotel I don't want to take credit for it. It was not by our group, it was by the Irgun Tzvei Leumi, but I would like to explain it. The King David Hotel had to be blown up without many casualties in life. And there were 3 warnings to the chief secretary, who was parallel to prime minister in a mandated territory, to clear the offices because it's going to be blown up. And this man, in order to pass the warning to his subordinates, his reaction was, "I'm here to give order to the Jews and not to take order from the Jews." And they didn't do a thing to clear the offices, and therefore there were many casualties, among them friends of the Irgun and of the Stern Group, who served us very, very loyally, and we really, neither the Irgun nor we would have any interest to kill them. So they were, I would say, victims of the, I wouldn't say even idiocy, of the vanity of this man, of the chief secretary.
Nathan Yolland Moore, former member of the Stern Gang. Mr. Yolland Moore was interviewed by Jody Miller. Thousands of tourists visit the Mideast this time of year. Their destination is Bethlehem.